The game I'm playing right now is called Flashout III, and it's just one of 2 racing games that we're going to be reviewing today. As you can tell, this is a futuristic racer that bears more than a passing resemblance to games like wipEout and F-Zero. The other game we're going to talk about is OutWave, an arcadey driving game that is all about surviving as long as humanly possible. Both of these racing games are available right now on Steam, and today we're going to find out if either of them is actually worth your money. Buckle up, folks, because these high-octane racing games will sell you the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge. If you're like me, then you're on a lifelong journey to find a futuristic racing game as good as wipEout and F-Zero. That path has led me straight to Flashout III, a hovercraft racing game with a great sense of speed, gorgeous levels, smooth gameplay, and a surprisingly innovative take on the weapons system. It's a high-octane racer from late last year that comes surprisingly close to matching the height set by Sony and Nintendo. And I'm actually kicking myself for not playing it back when it first came out. Now, while it's unfair to label all futuristic racing games as wipEout clones, I think it applies in this situation. Flashout 3 looks and plays almost exactly the same as Sony's long-running franchise, right down to the smallest details. You not only strafe back and forth with the shoulder buttons, but you can even spin the airborne craft around to gain a slight speed boost when you land, exactly like what we saw in wipEout. Hell, even the hovercrafts look like they were pulled straight out of 2048. Honestly, I don't mind that Flashout 3 is derivative, what with Sony all but abandoning the series years ago. What I care about is whether or not it's a fun racing game with tight controls and cool world building, and this game delivers on every front. It's dripping with style and has a fun single-player campaign with a bunch of stages to master and race types to take on. These events include an elimination mode where the car in last place keeps getting destroyed, a fastest lap race, and one where the goal is to blow up as many other hovercrafts as possible before time runs out. These are a nice diversion from the standard races. The one unique thing that Flashout 3 brings to the table is the weapon loadout, which gives us a lot of control over both your offensive and defensive measures. As we beat the campaign, we'll unlock more weapons, which you can map to 3 different buttons. These include everything from missiles to guns to defensive items like landmines and a full shield. The problem is that you only have so many points you can play around with, so you can't just equip the 3 most powerful weapons. You'll need to balance out your loadout for not just multiple kinds of fights, but also different race events. This brings me to my biggest complaint about the game. The gunplay is just a bit too aggressive. Maybe it's because everybody's equipped with weapons, but it feels like everybody is attacking everybody at all times. In that sense, I find myself preferring the way that wipEout handles it, where each racer can pick up weapons and items from marked spaces on the tracks. Sure, that may remove a lot of the customization, but it also means that the weapons are used more sparingly. Look, perhaps it's just a personal preference, but I prefer the slightly less chaotic races found in wipEout over the constant barrage of bullets that we get in Flashout 3. While one could probably complain that there aren't enough unique tracks and the race types lack originality, I feel like this game comes with more than enough content, especially given the cheap asking price. This is a game that comes surprisingly close to matching the best of the wipEout series, and with another installment or 2, I could see the developers eventually getting there. But even if it's not quite as good right now, it's still the closest thing we have to a wipEout sequel, which makes Flashout 3 an easy game to recommend. The newest game that we're going to talk about today is also the cheapest, coming in at a mere 99 cents. OutWave is the kind of simple driving game that I can't help but want to play, what with the retro aesthetic and the fast-paced arcadey action. It's the kind of game that you pick up and just know how to play without any kind of instructions, which is both its greatest strength and its greatest weakness. Simply put, this is a game about surviving. It's really no different from something like Pac-Man, where the entire goal is to race around a giant maze picking up items and staying away from the other cars. There are more obstacles on the streets, and it's an urban landscape instead of simplistic lines, but the cat and mouse chase makes this feel like it could be a futuristic retelling of a game like Rally X. With most sessions running only a few minutes at most, this is not the kind of game that you're going to be playing for months to come. I found that I would jump in for a quick session or two and then go back to the more substantial games that I was reviewing. It's a concept that is so simple that you can't help but get a little bit bored of it after a short amount of time, yet addictive enough to make you want to jump back in every so often or so. The game hopes that you're going to want to keep coming back to earn more money and unlock fancier cars. OutWave is smart about making each session matter, even if you crash and burn almost immediately. There's a real sense of accomplishment as you go for a new high score or collect thousands of spendable dollars. There's a feeling that you get after a few minutes of racing around the skyscrapers where you realize that you're on borrowed time, and between the aggressive enemies and frustrating obstacles, your run could end at literally any second. The problem is that OutWave feels more like a proof of concept than a fully realized game. The developer does a good job of getting into the action, yet it only takes a few minutes before you've seen and done everything. What this game needs is more variety in the stage designs, villains, and obstacles. Take this concept and flesh it out with more power-ups, new locations, and over-the-top modifiers, turning this $1 game into something that you might be able to charge $5 for. As it is, this is a fun and cheap driving game that I'm going to likely forget about in a month or two. It's fun and certainly worth $1, but it also feels a bit like a missed opportunity. This is the kind of game that you'd play for a few minutes in the arcade and then just never think about ever again. No matter what, I'm looking forward to seeing what this developer ends up doing next. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's the last great racing game that you played? Was it something recent, or maybe you went back and played something old? Let me know in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with more reviews and stuff. While you wait to see if I deliver on that promise, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,